mother, it's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just a trio of feathery brethren weathering any season to see the Eagles eat teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia, Bo, Sheila, and Zach kicking it cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some Birds with Friends. The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some Birds with Friends. Bo, Sheila, and Zach coming at you with sets and things flapping.
We are going to rip out the hearts of other podcasts. We are going to bite off their eyeballs. We're going to start every segment watching the scene from The Last of the Mohicans where the guy takes a bite out of the other guy's heart. We may not be good, but we're going to be nasty. We're going to reflect the blue-collar nature of this city. What an interesting lead into this episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Burns with Friends. Bo Wolf, Zach Berman, and more importantly, we have with us the Oscar Award-winning Marissa Morris. Marissa, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you guys?
We're not bad. Zach, what's new with you?
I have never felt more like a third wheel in my life, and rightfully so. Anyone who went on the Athletic app or the Athletic website today knows what I'm talking about. If you have not, I hope Marissa isn't too modest to put the link on the bottom of the screen here, but an outstanding story by Bo about Marissa and Marissa's fiance, which we will get to. But as I said, I feel like a third wheel, and appropriately so. This is, as Shil Kapadia joked with us over text message, when he said this is Stacey's day in reference to Stacey Andrews. This is Marissa's day today.
There you go. So we will get to that. We will get to the story of Marissa and Michael and what Marissa's day has been like, I guess. But we will start with Eagles news, just because if there are those of you who have not yet read the story, we'll give you a chance to do that, and you can still listen to the Eagles stuff before that. So Zach, it was a pretty light practice today for the Eagles. A bunch of veterans had the day off. They even beyond that went pretty light in terms of the practice. A couple of team periods in which it was sort of run heavy, and some 7-on-7. The real highlight of the day, like the most interesting thing that happened, was Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo just ripping in to Jalen Reagor after a play in which he either misaligned or missed his assignment, or didn't, whatever it was, he missed some very important coaching point, because the two of them just relentless. I mean, easily the most we've seen anybody lay into anybody throughout this first week and a half of camp.
Yes, and I want to discuss it. I do want to point out the irony, though, that every other episode we have, when there's like legitimate Eagles news to talk about, we don't talk about it, and instead we focus on some like esoteric Birds with Friends minutia, right? And so today, when we have like legitimate Birds with Friends stuff to discuss, we are talking about Eagles minutia, right? But no, you are correct in that was the most noteworthy thing to observe. And I don't mind hard coaching, right? I think that's what coaching is supposed to do. It wasn't done like maliciously, concussion uncle type way. It was instructed, like clearly Jalen Reagor did something wrong, and they were fixing it. I distinctly remember Chip Kelly's approach was different. Chip Kelly used to say that you only have X amount of time on the field. Corrections are done at a different point, not during practice. Get on to the next play. This coaching staff is very hands-on with the way they coach. So, I agree with you there. And then the other thing from today is Davion Taylor, who was having a decent few days before the injury, came back yesterday, then has a new injury, a calf injury, is week to week. So he'll miss some time here.
So as somebody points out in the chat, this Reagor situation is complicated. He has, recently lost a good friend and was going through that. That was part of the reason he failed his conditioning test, and he wasn't necessarily in the right mental space to start training camp. But he's back, and we talked to him yesterday. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Everything blends together. I think it was yesterday. Yes. And he said, he appreciated the support of the team. He even appreciated Sirianni holding him accountable, which again he did today. But I'm curious what you think, Zach. Like, is there a chance that Jalen Reagor is not going to be even like the number 2 receiver on this team? Like, are you a little bit worried about Reagor? He has not really done much since coming back. The other receivers have flashed more than he has.
I still think he's going to be a top 3 receiver. Now, in 12, maybe Travis Fulgham's out there because Fulgham has played better, but I still think it's going to be Reagor. And I actually look at the coaching as an indication of that. There's the old Bill Parcells axiom or anecdote that, if he stops getting on you, if he stops yelling at you, that's when it's a problem. Because he's
another good axiom out of you,
right? Right, like the fact
we should call you Zaxium.
I have a lot of these, but the fact that they're coaching him up is an indication that they think there's something more for him to achieve, and I think he will be a starter. I'm not telling you how productive he's going to be, but he can be an electric player with the ball in his hands.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that the really the only stuff we've seen him do aside from a good period of one-on-ones against Darius Slay is like be the go-to guy for wide receiver screens. Mm-hmm. And, that was in the Football Outsiders Almanac this year that he was one of the better wide receivers with wide receiver screens last year. That was really like one of the only few things he did well. And that is going to be a big part of this offense to some degree. So he'll have a role there, but I don't know, like, I don't know that we should expect that much from Jalen Reagor. Like, is it now? He's going to have the opportunity because we know that the decisions on the depth chart and playing time are not solely up to the coaching staff, and with the presumption that Andre Dillard is going to lose the left tackle job, I would find it hard to have 2 recent first round picks sitting on the bench. Like, it's not like they have other guys who are, proven or even like that exciting. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if, midway through the season, he starts losing reps, or even in the beginning of the season, if it's more of a rotation, like, you see plays with Quez Watkins out there, or you see plays with, Greg Ward and Travis Fulgham out there with Devontae Smith. I don't know. My expectations for Reagor year 2 this is probably an overreaction, but they have diminished a little bit.
His career track so far is like eerily similar to Nelson Aguilar's.
Yeah.
Right down to like how the second year is going so far. And so it is pretty interesting. I remember vividly talking to someone this offseason who was, kind of pushing me to not
Jeffrey?
be selling. This was not Jeffrey, not be selling all my Jalen Reagor stock, if you will. And basically what he was saying was that last year's coaching staff said they had all these ideas for how to use him, and they didn't really show any creativity. And I would imagine that there's an emphasis on being creative in getting Nelson Aguilar. Oh, I'm sorry, in getting Jalen Reagor the ball. Now, that said, it is a little concerning when like you have to dial up plays to get the ball to somebody. He should be good enough to get open on his own, to become a go-to guy on his own. Nonetheless, I don't think that the depth chart is so stacked behind him that someone's going to be pushing him. Although, look, if Quez Watkins has a good summer at training camp and Jalen Reagor, in the preseason, and Jalen Reagor does not do much, then if you say it's about a competition, like at some point you got to go with what your eyes show you.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that is the kind of thing that I don't think they will do right away. Like I think Rager's draft pick status is going to be enough to give him like an entrenched position to start with, but
and his talent too. Like he does have juice,
I don't know. I guess.
I mean, that punt return touchdown last year was.
And I mean, what juice did he ever show as a receiver?
Week 1, right? 50
yeah, that's true. Week 1. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that was nice. There you go. Okay. Again, not a super newsworthy practice. With the veterans that were out, there was one sort of depth chart move, which was that Zach McPherson, who we talked about yesterday as sort of flashing, he leapfrogged from the third team all the way up to the first team defense today, which meant that he jumped over Michael Jaquette and Craig James and worked with the ones opposite Steve Nelson. And he actually gave up a play deep down the field to John Hightower that was actually fairly well defended. It was just a good throw and a good catch. And he was active again. But, we talked about, are we going to see some depth chart movement after week one? And we did. So good for McPherson.
And I thought you asked a good question to Jonathan Gannon today about like implementing changes, and what Gannon said is that he really looks at it almost every 4 days, right? They have 4 days and they have the off day. So
which is interesting because this was not after an off day.
No.
They made a change, and
when
this
Slay
was
wasn't out there, right? So they had to put somebody in there. You are right, but no, I am curious to see when they're back on Saturday, what if anything is different.
Poor Marissa, just having to be sitting here waiting and then like just listening to this nonsense and looking at the comments.
I stand by what I said earlier. It is hilarious that like Bo all of a sudden wants to get into the minutia of training camp practice.
I'm intrigued by all this. The chat's weighing in, so.
There's a bit of a possibility we may have a visitor for this episode, Marissa.
I just got a call, but I'm not sure if he's coming here. So
okay,
we'll see.
Chekhov's offensive lineman. What else, Zach? What else happened today?
I mean, I don't want to delay the main attraction.
Well, we're gonna have plenty. We gotta get to the ads at some point anyway.
So what else happened today? Excuse me. I thought, so you mentioned Hightower's catch downfield.
Jalen Hurts' worst throw he's had all camp. He threw an interception to Jacoby Stevens that was like Jacoby Stevens was just sitting right in the zone exactly where Hurts was throwing the ball. He didn't see him at all. That was the worst throw I've seen from him all camp. So
Jacoby Stevens had an interesting explanation for
it was interesting
behind the scenes of what happened. And he said earlier in camp, the same call against play action, and he dropped too wide and he left the middle open, and so he ran it as he was supposed to today, and he got the interception. So sign of progress for Jacoby Stevens back there. What else happened?
When he said it was
bittersweet.
I learned that I need to trust the coaches. So
yes,
okay,
yeah.
Could have started a little bit sooner with that, Jacoby, but fair enough. But actually, it was interesting because the really nice throw to Hightower over McPherson was the very next play. So, a good little bounce back from Jalen Hurts.
Andrew Adams back from the COVID.
Andrew Adams didn't have a beard.
He didn't have a beard. What's the joke?
It's a joke for. I'm not going to. It's just a movie reference. It's not a good joke. It's just.
What's the movie?
Don't make me explain it.
No, but what's the movie?
Happy Gilmore. It's a Grizzly Adams did have a beard, so I said Andrew Adams did have a beard. Would you like me to go even further?
Got it. No. I'm following you now. Okay. Sorry. Price is wrong, right? So what else? Alex Singleton is on his way back. He's not fully there yet. Ryan Kerrigan was back on a limited basis, so nothing to be concerned about.
Extremely limited
with that injury. Miles Sanders dropped the ball in these.
Another drop from Miles Sanders.
Yeah, certainly something to monitor there. And what else? Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network was present today.
And he gave us exactly what we predicted yesterday.
First takeaway.
It was like he listened to the episode.
Yes. So look, I wish there were like 2019 royalties that would be paying off now. I vividly recall. It's the second time I've said vividly. I need to figure out. I need to go to the source here.
Vivacious.
But we were sitting in the NovaCare media room upstairs doing the podcast and you were producing it. This was before we had the benefit of having Marissa.
Yeah, I was killing you.
And we were doing these daily pods, and I'm talking up Josh Sweat, and I compare him to Daniil Hunter.
Guy couldn't get off the ball.
And you were killing me. Now here he is. National guys pumping him up, 10-plus sacks, on the verge of a big payday. I went back. I wasn't there Saturday night's interview sessions. I went back, watched the press conference today. He concurs with Tim McManus's question about him being on the verge of a breakout year, right? Like said, yeah, he feels that way. So they're not going to be able to keep this guy off the field.
I wish we could. We should have tried to pull the tape from yesterday's episode, because I feel like the call was not quite Shield Super Bowl level, but it was a pretty good call. I mean, we just said that if a national reporter comes through, they're going to say, take a look, watch out for this Josh Sweat. And basically that was his number one point. Josh Sweat, 10 sacks if he stays healthy. Andrew Adams, we talked about, as you said, came back from the COVID list and was working with sort of all the different safety groups. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Alex Singleton when he gets back, although I sort of know the answer based on the way that they've handled the linebackers under Jonathan Gannon, and the answer is that he's going to work with the first team, the second team, and the third team, and work with each of the different linebacker partners, basically, because that's what they want. They want guys to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Is there a good saying for that? Like, find comfort in the discomfort? Is there like a Bud Grant saying?
No, but I was taught to do one thing every day to leave your comfort zone. So that's something I strive to achieve every day. There you go.
You know what would accomplish that? Dyeing your hair blonde.
That's a little too far beyond my comfort zone. I'm like pushing the comfort zone limit. Not. How
about a beard?
A beard, perhaps, but that.
Okay. And it'd be good, because if you never had a beard, every day that your beard continues to grow would be leaving your comfort zone, because you have never had a beard that big. So it would sort of let you off the hook from doing anything else.
My 4-year-old son, if I have any scruff, he'll say, "You're supposed to shave." Yeah, he doesn't like the scruff.
Well, the scruff, but once it's bigger, then it'll be sort of pillowy, and that'll be fun.
Gotcha. That's like people who run long distances. They say like once you get past that like a certain point, the endorphins kick in, and
right.
and you like you feel.
How you know this from your bike rides?
No, it's I am not a good runner, man. I got to push through that to hit that runner's high.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth talking about, but I really don't think that there was. Post practice, though, there were some semi-interesting press conferences. Tell us about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside pulling sort of a Rodney Dangerfield in his mind.
So,
back to school.
It's no respect. Oh, okay. I was thinking no respect. I was like, so here we go. So with JJ, he said that in the past 2 years, he got caught up in, I need to show them this, I need to do that, and he needs to go back to what worked in college, which was do all the things great that require no talent, and then let your talent take over when it's necessary. So he be
great at the things that require no talent. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Then let your talent take over.
So now look,
he said he was sort of like he was trying to do what everybody else was doing. So like if Alshon Jeffrey trains this way, he should train that way too, instead of dancing with the girl who brought him.
I wrote last August a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside story about, learning from the lessons from year one, applying it for year two. He caught that. I did not say vividly remember here. Okay. So I wasn't going to do it the third time, but I do remember right in front of us on, the back of the end zone when he caught like 3 touchdowns in a practice.
Mm-hmm. He gave the which one?
Yeah. So look, I'm not going to fall for it. This year, he's always been a good August player. He needs to do it in September and October. But JJ is he is a hard worker. He does care. He's not one of these guys who the problem is like
sure.
he doesn't give a beep. Like he does care. It's just we need to see the talent. Now I thought Travis Fulgham's press conference was interesting because Fulgham, when asked about his drop off last year, said, "Well, Alshon got healthy, and so they
it was
put
his
Alshon
spot
in there." Yeah, it was his spot. The explanation from Aaron Moorhead was that defenses started to adjust to Travis Fulgham, and he had to learn how to adjust. when Travis Fulgham was asked if he can be the October Travis for 4 months, he basically said, "Yeah, if they throw me the ball 10 times a game, right?" So apparently, all he needs.
It was very interesting. Right? It was not like well, Alshon came back and got healthy, but I also could have done some other stuff. It was like there was none of that. It was like, oh, that was the decision they made, and it's interesting because, the position coach is still here. It's the same guy.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. It was.
It's kind of awkward.
It wasn't like I learned so much from November and December that I can apply. It was more like it was really hard for me.
Well, it's interesting because it's like it's a funny dichotomy between him and JJ, right? Because one guy is like he's saying all the right things, but you don't think it's going to matter. And then Fulgham is like he's not saying the right things; he's saying the wrong things. But if it's a wide receiver, that's probably what you want, right? You want the guy with sure. Like crazy self-confidence that borders on, what's the word I'm looking for? Pathological?
Arrogance.
Pathological.
It's, I don't want to overstate Fulgham's comments, but it reminds me sometimes of like Rick Vaughn in Major League 2. Where he has the great year 1, and then he comes back year 2, and he's like, yeah. So
right, he's got the eliminator.
Yeah. Fulgham's not that way, but it was like, well, yeah, the coaches put Alshon in there, right? So,
yeah, that was interesting. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Who else did we hear from? Jacoby Stevens, Jonathan Gannon. John Hightower.
Let's get to the Marissa and Michael.
Yeah, there's not much else to talk about with the Eagles. The Eagles are back tomorrow for the last practice of this 4-practice stretch before an off day on Friday. So we will be back tomorrow. But why don't we do our ads now? Go ahead.
And we should say too, so Sirianni talks tomorrow. You said the off day is Friday, Saturday. Is in normal practice. Sunday is at the link. So if you want to see the Eagles in person, you can see that practice at
it's a night practice, right?
Yeah, 7 p.m. on Sunday night.
Thanks. Okay. So for those of you who that was not a thanks to you. That was a thanks to the Eagles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was not getting on you. You were doing the right thing, giving us the correct information. Okay. So if you have not read the story or you don't care to hear about it, if you just want to give Marissa a big middle finger and say who cares, then leave and never come back. Otherwise you can go read the story or you could come back later, but we'll go to the ads now, and then on the other side we will talk to Marissa and Zach. Listen, I've been trying to cut down on carbs and sugar and unhealthy food. I'm trying to show up to training camp in the best shape of my life, and I realized I basically can't eat any of the good stuff anymore, especially cereal. Well, guess what? Magic Spoon is saving the day for me. 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. There's only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. And get this, you can build your own box or get a variety pack with available flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, and cinnamon. And guess what? Magic Spoon is bringing back 2 super popular flavors: cookies and cream and maple waffle, maple waffle permanently. And I got to tell you, this maple waffle, delicious. I had some this morning, mixed in a little granola. Woo, baby. Good start to the day. It's fantastic. It's healthy. It's delicious. And they've got a bunch of flavors, whatever strikes your fancy. So go to magicspoon.com/birds to grab your delicious cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code BIRDS at checkout to save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/birds and use the code BIRDS for $5 off. Thank you to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode. Hello, everybody. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low-carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, and it's got none of the junk. No sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS, no gas, no, trackers that are going to follow you around, no microchips, none of that stuff. There's nothing like that in Element. Don't worry about it. And the proof is in the pudding, my friends. Dozens of professional teams and players in the NBA, and NFL, and NHL are on monthly Element subscriptions, typically recommended by the head of their sports, performance, and nutrition. So here's what you need to know. This is the bottom line. Element is available to you, our listeners. A very special offer. You can claim your free Element sample pack. All you have to do is cover the cost of shipping. That's it. Just drinklmnt.com/birdswithfriends. That's where you go. drinklmnt.com/birdswithfriends. Get yourself some of that special electrolyte salt, baby. I've been liking the raspberry salt. I've been liking, there's a chocolate salt, which you might not expect, but it's a nice little twist. And there's a habanero one, which is actually pretty nice. So do what you got to do. drinklmnt.com/birdswithfriends. It's the most important element there is. Dinner time can be chaotic. I mean, who are we kidding? I'm recording this like 45 minutes after we had, my son eating dinner like in the living room, sitting at the couch. My daughter is like yapping away while she shoves little bits of cheese and green beans and a little bit of chicken into her mouth. It's a wild thing going on here. And that's because I didn't have Freshly tonight. Freshly offers chef-made, nutrient-packed, delicious meals delivered fresh to your door, no cooking required. And ordering is easy. Just visit freshly.com and choose from over 30 delicious, satisfying, better-for-you meals like steak peppercorn, sausage baked penne, and their chicken pesto bowl. Freshly can fit your lifestyle with variety of plans and meals to pick from that work for your dietary needs, preferences, tastes, and family size. Right now, Freshly is offering our listeners, this is a big deal here, our listeners $40 off your first two orders when you go to freshly.com/birds. So stop stressing about dinner. Go to freshly.com/birds for $40 off your first two orders. That's freshly.com/birds for $40 off your first two orders. All right, we're back on Birds with Friends. But Wolf, Zach Berman, and please, give it up. From Marissa Morris. Marissa, how are you?
I'm really great. Really great. Today was so overwhelming and so amazing, and I am so grateful to work with such amazing people like you guys. And you wrote our story so beautifully, Bo, and yep. I'm just so grateful for all of the nice comments and all the people that reached out, and it's really, really nice to see.
Well, I mean, all the credit goes to you, Michael, but the people have been very nice.
So nice.
Which is
I've been
nice
crying all day. I said to Bo before we came on here, what was the bird line for how many times I cried on here? So I'll try and keep it at a minimum. I don't want to get too sappy on anyone.
It would not be the first time someone has cried on the show. So
usually it's crying, laughing.
Usually, but that's okay.
I'm curious, what was last night like? Because I know from the reporter's perspective, like the night before a story comes out, there can often be nerves. Like, I hope I got this right. I hope this comes across the way I wanted it to. Put me in the shoes of the subject. Like what was last night like, knowing that this is coming out the next day and you'll essentially be outed?
It literally felt like Christmas Eve. I was so nervous.
We messaged about that on Slack.
I was so nervous. Not for the story. Like, I know Bo would have, done a great job, but
what if I just crushed you guys? Just a hit piece.
I mean, you could have. But it was funny because I was texting. I have a girl cousin's chat, and I was like, "What should my tweet say in the morning?" Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really good at this. Like, I like to be on the other side of things. So I was like, "Does this sound okay?" Like, and they're like shooting all different ideas at me. And I set my alarm for 7 a.m. because I knew the story would come out at 7. So 7 a.m. I'm on the Athletic app, like refreshing the feed. My eyes were like not even open. I have my sleep mask on my head. and then as soon as I opened it, I start bawling, crying, reading everything. So I just can't get over. You're very talented, Bo, and I'm very grateful.
Well, that's not about me.
Telling our story. Yeah.
This was your story. I guess we might as well start with let's start with the playoff game because we were part of the select few who did know about this going into that game. Yes. And we talked about it. Like, I've never had more fun like watching a game. I've also never like just watched the left guard during a game. And it was amazing. Just from our perspective, only knowing you and seeing him play in this game, like I can't even imagine what it was like for you. I mean, we talked about it.
It was like actually like it was like an outer body experience. The stadium was silent because there was every player got like 2 tickets. So there was like, I think less than 2,000 people in the entire stadium. And obviously it was all going the Browns' way in the first quarter. So it was just silent. And everyone's texting me and I'm trying to watch the game. And I'm like, it was just so surreal. Like, he has worked so hard for that moment. And there's been so many ups and downs that have led to that moment. And like, it was just so overwhelming. Like, I've said this to you guys, to see like the person you care about and love succeed is almost better than when you succeed at something yourself, because it, like how much effort and how many ups and downs have led to that moment. One. So if the chat wants to create a bird line,
there we go.
When the XFL ended, COVID was going on. We didn't know if there was, we've talked about on this podcast, we didn't know if there was going to be an NFL season, like, let alone did he think he was going to get a workout somewhere to sign with the team.
We got breaking news. We have
an NFL player in our chat.
I guess I should click and put it
Michael
on
Dunn in the chat. Michael Dunn has entered the chat. He
must have just gotten out of practice then.
He just sent out a tweet too. So I was going to say that was the breaking news, but he went next level.
Well, I'm very grateful. I will have to say, obviously I've always gone to his games and, everything. But he is so supportive of literally everything I do. During the Ospreys, he texted me, "Congratulations on the Emperor Penguin Award," which was the night before camp, and he was watching the Ospreys.
Well, that's what everybody does. That's
exactly.
That's what I do.
Who wasn't tuned into the Ospreys?
Jason Kelsey texted him, "Are you watching this, man?"
Right.
My Lotto's taking home all these awards.
I do think that there is, like, you could say that, Michael didn't get his first start in the NFL until he was a Birds with Friends listener.
You could very well say that.
I'm not saying it's causation, but
absolutely. He does listen to the Can't Wait podcast though too. So
well, I'm going
to be fair with all my podcast children.
I told you I had to, like, it was very hard for me not to put in some kind of line, like, Marissa Morris, who produces several podcasts on The Athletic of varying degrees of success, ranging from Birds with Friends all the way to Can't Wait. But
Connor would have got a real kick out of that.
So one quick anecdote and then a question. Bo was talking about how like we don't even know him and we were following this. If you go back and rewind the tape and listen to our podcast from that week, we made a bunch of veiled references to the Browns offensive line.
That's true.
There's been lots of them.
Yes,
there's little Easter eggs throughout I'm honestly surprised. There's a lot of Deepops in this chat that are pretty good with picking up on things. I'm pretty surprised.
Thankfully not too creepy though.
Yeah. I'm surprised that nobody connected all the dots. I mean, like I said in the story, it's hard being a woman in this industry, and you're judged on so many things. And I've wanted to work in sports since I was in third grade. Like, I grew up a diehard Yankees fan. I idolized Kim Jones as a kid. She covered the Yankees before she was at NFL Network.
Star legend.
So this is
the
what
Aaron Boone game.
The Aaron Boone game was literally, so it's like Michael Dunn's first playoff game is here now, and the Aaron Boone game has kind of been beat. But the 2003 ALCS, I was in third grade in right field. Incredible.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it was awesome. But so I've wanted to work in sports my whole life, and I just, people can be mean online. So kind of always felt like, let me do my thing, and nobody needs to know about, I'm a pretty open person, but like, I just didn't want, people to think I was in this business for the wrong reasons, because I love working in sports and it's what I've always wanted to do. So, now that we're engaged, and the secret kind of came out in that game because I was just getting tagged in things like left and right. And there was like no, at that point I'm like, okay. But I know like our story is pretty crazy, and I'm grateful that you were able to tell it so beautifully.
I had a separate question. Did you want to follow up though, Bo?
No, go ahead.
On the sports channel. Okay. So I was fascinated reading, because you were along for the ride the entire way. And anyone who listens to Birds with Friends, like we try to humanize these guys at times, but the reality is we're talking about players, right? Like we are, we're cutting them, we're trading them. You are there behind the scenes. You see it day to day. What perspective do you have on professional football that is like unique to you that we can't convey just covering them the way we do?
Good question.
Yeah, I would say like, everyone's got a story, and like that week leading up to Michael's playoff game, people are like, Michael Dunn, who the hell is this? Cam Hayward's going to destroy him, like.
Got twisted.
Yeah. But like, I think that I do it too. I think it's, we look at these players as, just like pieces of the game, but they're people, and everyone has feelings and families and things going on behind the scenes that could be impacting their day-to-day, performance on the field. So I just think like always remembering that everybody has a story, everybody has a bad day. I know that's like pretty cliche, but like, like people are going through things and you don't always know what everyone's going through. So, like in Michael's case, there's been so many ups and downs, and like things when I was going through with my health stuff, I'm like, that had to impact his performance, and that had to impact his desire to keep playing, because when you go through, when you're watching me go through something like that, like football doesn't matter, cry too for the chat who's counting of how many times I'm tearing up. But, I would just say trying to remember that all players and everybody has something that they're going through and a background.
So you brought it up, and we don't have to dwell on it if you don't want to, but you were very generous with sharing your story of what you have been through. Mm-hmm. And I was struck by, when you get emotional about it, it's not because of what you went through. It's because you're thinking of like the help that your mom was giving you, and what Michael was going through being so far away. And it's just striking how how empathetic you are. So I don't know. I mean, if whatever you want to share from that time, go ahead.
I mean, everybody has dealt with somebody, I feel like, that's gone through some sort of cancer or things like that. Sorry.
You can cut us off anytime you want.
No, I'm fine. Like I told you when you were interviewing us, you know, I have never been shy about talking about what I've went through, but I also like have never posted it on social media. I never had the words to, like I just, it wasn't like I didn't want people to know. Like everybody knew that what I was going through, but I never knew how to word it or say it. And, you know, I think it taught me like that not to sweat the small stuff, because there's way more important things than your job, than, you know, a fight you're having with a friend. Like, and I think a lot of people learned that this year after COVID. I feel like, you know, you're like, okay, you know, I'm worrying about, I don't know, getting the next job or, you know, moving into that new place. Like, you know, it none of that really matters. Like, you know, football didn't matter. And as much as we all love football, like it did not matter. Like I went from like, okay, is he going to make the team, to like, you know what? Like, this is great. He has the opportunity. Like, let's see what happens. So I think just reminding yourself when you get, and I still do it to this day. Like I get all worked up about, you know, stupid things. And I have to like take a step back, always just realizing that there's
another
just
ad.
Your happiness, your health, your physical and your mental health is more important than literally anything else there is. So I'll just leave it at that.
So,
well, it's interesting.
Like
you know,
I'm
you
rambling.
said no. That was very eloquent. You said the thing about how you know, the perspective that a lot of people got over the past year plus. You know, you guys got the year before, and we've talked about how, in a weird way, like not like people like dying all over the world aside, COVID sort of worked out a little bit in Michael's favor. And you wouldn't have thought that was going to be the case, because in the beginning of that preseason, you know, the roster sizes were cut from 90 to 80, but it turned out that like the incredible ups and downs and journeys that he'd been on, being on, you know, 6 teams, 3 leagues, having to figure things out, was sort of the perfect preparation for what he was going to have to deal with this season. You know, so much remote learning, being thrown in without being able to practice at all. Like, you know, it was sort of a mitzvah.
That's a good choice of words. It was like, it was just, I mean, the COVID stuff last year, like I didn't leave the apartment because, you know, I can work remotely, thankfully, and had lots of podcasts to work on. But I was worried about, you know, me getting anything and giving it to him, because God forbid, like, you know, I'm the reason that there's a spread on the team. And there were, you know, we saw that a lot last year. So, you know, he really like, he was so focused and it was just all football. And, you know, he really like I feel like there was no distractions, nothing. And I, you know, the COVID year was, I mean, COVID's still going on. Let's not, you know, say it's over. But yeah, I think.
Don't get political on this podcast, Marissa.
Yeah, we're not. I don't need to go into that. I don't need any haters in my messages. But, you know,
send me all the hate, please.
Like when, you know, they had the outbreak before the playoffs, like they had just put another guy on IR. He had gotten hurt the week before. And then Joel unfortunately got COVID, and it was like, you're up. Like you couldn't, you know, he did not have time to like, he had to get ready. And whatever way he, you know, like the Steelers had been getting ready, like it didn't matter. Like it was his shot and it was time to perform. And thankfully that's what happened.
So what was the biggest kind of sliding doors moment in this story? Like what? Because there's so many things that happened. Some not in his favor, obviously. Some in his favor, right? And I shouldn't say in his favor, in both of you, because it really struck me that you guys were a team in this, right? But like, what happened that if this just went a little bit different, this story is entirely different?
I'll say two things. One, I have to give credit to, Bo mentioned in the story, Michael's offensive line coach from Jacksonville and Miami, Pat Flaherty, because he was like the first, and he was, Eagles fans might know, he was the Giants offensive line coach during the Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls.
No, don't turn him against you.
Yeah, sorry. But like, he really believed in Michael, and like, he was just a great support to Michael. And I think, you know, having that person that believes in you and encourages you, and like, you're like, okay, I'm not doing this for any reason, you know, I'm not doing this for nothing kind of thing. So when teams weren't bringing in players last year to work out, it was like August 7th, I think he ended up leaving. It was August. So camp had started and they were not working out, guys. So, you know, if he wasn't invited to a camp, like he was going to be done. And it was his idea.
Marissa, he's always done.
Yes. Lots of puns with the last name. But like, you know, he was like, all right, I'm going to ask Flats to put me through a virtual workout. Well, they're going to be at a workout at the field and you film it and then put it together and we could send it to teams. And at least if teams are like, okay, this is, you know, he wasn't currently, he's now a part of the Giants organization as a consultant, I believe. But at the time he was not affiliated with any team. And if they see him putting me through a workout and what I can do, maybe they'll bring me in and sign. And we went through this whole workout. I filmed everything. I was, you know, like ready to go, edit it, put it all together. And literally he got a call from his agent that the Browns wanted to bring him before we had left the field. Like, it was like eerie how it was like such fate. Like, no one ended up seeing that workout. Like, it wasn't needed. And it's just like amazing to me that like it all happened that way. Like, we did this whole thing and they called while we were there. So I would say that is one thing. And then I would say his decision to do the XFL.
I'm glad you brought this up.
He really did not want to do the XFL. You know, he spent like portions of the year on the Jaguars practice squad. He did the AAF, and then I went through all my health stuff. He went to the Dolphins. Flaherty got fired. It was, you know, like just a jumbled. And that was when I was like, you know what? Football doesn't really matter. Like, we're happy, like, whatever. And his grandmother had passed away, unfortunately. And we went back to Maryland for homecoming. And so he had gotten drafted to the Seattle team in the XFL during all of this time. And
Sixth round of the offensive line draft. So it means
right.
he's a starter. I mean, he's a backup already.
He was like, are they like, it was so deflating, like so deflating. And he got drafted to the Seattle team of all, like literally there was a team in DC, there was a team in New York, like so many local area teams. And of course the farthest across the country. And we went to Maryland for homecoming. And
this is great. This is one of the things that like had to be on the cutting room floor that I was sad to see go. So I'm glad you're telling the story.
Yeah. So we went to Bentley's, which if any Terp fans know is like a classic Maryland bar. Scott Van Pelt talks about it all the time. And it was homecoming and Maryland was playing Michigan the next day. And in the corner was Steve Levy, Todd McShay, and a few other people from ESPN because they were calling the game the next day. And me being the journalist in me was like, oh my God, like I got to go introduce myself to them. Like I got to go network. So of course I like trot over there. Michael doesn't come with me at first because he's like, oh my God, what is she saying to them? But I just like introduced myself and was like, oh, I work for The Athletic, you know, had a network. So then he eventually comes over and Steve Levy was the voice of the XFL. Well, I don't know if it even had been announced yet, but he told us that he was going to be. And Michael's like, yeah, you know, he told them his whole story and was like, I'm not sure if I should do it. And they were making jokes like, hey, Todd McShay, was he on your big board? Like all this stuff. And they were like, why wouldn't you do it? Like, if you could keep playing football and get paid to do it, like what else you got lined up? Like, you know, and Michael was an economics major at Maryland. He's super smart. Like that is his biggest attribute. He is so smart. Like, the stuff he can figure out in his head. And they were like, you should do it. We ran into a few other people that weekend and they're like, oh, hey, congrats on the XFL stuff. And Michael, like his tune changed, you know, he was like, all right, I might give it one more go around. And then little did he know, like he played very well in the XFL. He was like the top offensive lineman. I think he was the second best offensive lineman in the league, according to PFF. And
it was the best according to me, a BFF. Pro football focus.
Yes. So, you know, then there's a global pandemic to end that season. But again, like he got his film from that, you know, like the point of these other leagues is to get film. Like that's, you know, you want to showcase what you can do. That's the best thing you can do. But, you know, the pandemic happened and he had no idea if he was even going to get picked back up. And fast forward to January 10th and he's starting in a playoff game at Heinz Field in the Browns' first playoff win in 26 years. So, I mean, I have to pinch myself like all the time. And, you know, fast forward to now and, you know, he's got to make the 53-man roster. And, you know, Browns have like the best offensive line in the league. And he's lucky to be learning from, you know, such a great coach and great teammates. So he's working really hard and, you know, it's been such a crazy journey, but I'm so thrilled to, you know, be where we are today and healthy and happy and, you know, whatever happens with football happens.
It says a lot about you though, too, because, you know, I mean, not to, I'm not an objective source here, obviously, because we're friends, but like there's a lot of people, I can imagine there's a lot of significant others who would be like, you know, this isn't working out for you, right? Or this isn't going to work. Like get real, you know, it's the NFL. But it seemed through both storytelling that like you were really the one who was in his corner the entire time, even when he had doubts.
Yeah. I mean, I just knew he needed his opportunity. Like, I feel like he needed to be able to showcase what he could do. And I feel like in the middle of his career, like things were really crazy with everything in our personal life and, you know, everything I was going through. And I just feel like he wasn't like at his best. And I just wanted him to get that shot. So he knew, you know, like down the road, he got that shot and he gave it his all. And if it didn't work out, he gave it his all, you know? So for him to have the opportunity he had last year, like, I mean, I could cry again, but I think I'm ready at 3. So it was just so rewarding to see, like when you put in so much work and you have no idea if it's going to pay off, but when it finally does, it's like the best feeling for me to see, for him, you know, and for him, I'm sure as well. So
well, and one of the things that he said that I really liked was, you know, about, you know, people asked me if I played in the NFL and like I didn't know what to say. Like, you know, I was on
said that.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I was on some like
Practice
rosters, but I never And he said all I really wanted was to just feel a part of a team for one season. And he got that. And then like the cherry on top, you know, he got to start in the playoff game and like just dominate. And like you cannot overstate how good he was in that game.
I know.
He was so good.
Oh, we've watched it like a lot of times. I mean, he's really lucky to block for a guy like Nick Chubb because, you know, he's pretty incredible. But like he laid it all out there, you know? And like I said, leading up to it, like, you know, I'm looking at me being the investigator, like looking on Twitter, what people are saying. So it wasn't like reported before that he was starting, but it was like connect the dots. Like the Browns had no other interior guys.
There's a funny story of the Athletic Football Show.
Yes. So I also produced the Athletic Football Show, and Robert Mays did not know at the time about Michael, and him and Nate Tice were recording, and it's like the end of the podcast, and Robert said something about Nick Harris starting for Joel Bitonio, And I knew that wasn't true because they had just put Nick Harris on IR. Like, that was out there. So I was like, oh, actually, pause. They just put Nick Harris on IR. And Howard's like, oh, okay, I'll redo that part. And he's like, do you know who's starting? And I was like, nope. And I like felt
I have an idea, but I don't know.
But you know, it wasn't out there, and I have to, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, like it's been such an overwhelming, amazing day, and you know, I hope people like, you know, I don't want to be like cliche and corny, but like, you know, everybody goes through setbacks. Everybody goes through up and downs. Like, you know, like just keep going, and eventually it will start to rise, and things will.
Eventually, you'll be forced to produce a ridiculous podcast.
I have a lighthearted question, if I can.
Please do.
Because we know Bo Wolf, the podcast host. We know, you know, Bo Wolf, the press conference questioner. We know Bo Wolf in scrums. But you had a unique look at like Bo Wolf, the reporter working on a big feature story. Take the gloves off here, right? Like
Please.
what's Bo like as a reporter in these situations?
So diligent. Like we literally talked on Zoom for like 4 hours, and like Bo knows what's going on. Like Bo, you know, he's been up to date on all this, but he like, you know, dotted every I and crossed every T, and you know, checked with me to make sure he had everything correct. And I mean, he, like I said, there was so many. We literally went through our whole story, and once you get me talking, I can kind of talk. I'm sure Michael.
You're a dream subject. It seems.
I'm sure Michael did that too. But let me tell you, he can also talk.
Oh, he was. Michael was talking. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like giving like details, like, you know, we were talking about the, you know, play that he got hurt in at senior year, and he was like describing the whole, like, where everybody
was.
Which
I did get video of. I did get video of that play. I thought it would be sort of not very nice to put it in the script. But.
It was his dream play, and it just did not go as according to plan. But, you know, so he was pretty chatty too. But I mean, like, I didn't read any of the story. Well, I read part about like when I went through all of my surgery and everything. Bo wanted me to see that part just to make sure. And like I said, I was very open with sharing everything I went through, because maybe somebody will read it and make sure they make that doctor's appointment that they were, I don't know, you know, I never ever in my whole life thought at 24 I would have a bilateral mastectomy. But, you know, I'm grateful for, I mean, doctors, nurses, everybody are just so incredible. And after this year we just went through, like, I mean, I can't thank them all enough. But so that was the only part of the story I had read until this morning. So when I opened my athletic app this morning, and oh man, I was lots of waterworks.
Which is a tough, like, it's a tough only section to read, I guess. But
yeah, but I mean, the whole story was just, you really did such a good job. And Bo Wolf, the reporter, is excellent.
Okay, well, this is making me uncomfortable. This is about you. But thank you. A few other things that were like cutting room floor that if you wanted to talk about for the people who read the story. So you talked about it, like the Maryland, you know, that was originally a little bit longer, like, you know, because he had an up and down journey at Maryland. You know, he comes as a walk-on. You know, he didn't start as a high school football player until his senior year. Yeah. Puts on like 75 pounds, something like that. And he gets a job as a redshirt freshman. He's a starter, and he starts all 4 years. And then as you said, he every year, every like practice or whatever, he's advocating for the River Dunn play. Give me the ball. He finally gets it, and it torpedoes his professional career.
I mean, he talked about that play forever. And I was actually working. I was working at Pix 11 at the time, and I was producing news, which was quite very eventful. And I was watching it, like I was streaming it on one of my work computers, and I like saw him go down, and like it cut to commercial, and I'm like, oh my God. And I actually, which I remind him to this day about this. So I was working in the city. I think I got off at like 10 o'clock p.m. Like I worked like, I guess it was 2 to 10 shift. And I was so concerned about him. That night I drove all the way from New York City to College Park, Maryland, just to check on him and be with him once they got home from Indiana. And then the next day I got up and drove back to Manhattan and went straight to work. I think I like wore the same clothes, or I had like bought a shirt from somewhere. I don't even remember. But I mean, his journey to Maryland was similar to his journey here. Like he went to Jewish day school until 8th grade, and they didn't have a football team, so he transferred.
Yeah, not a hotbed of football.
Yes, they did not have a football team, so he transferred to a public high school, and he was just like loved being part of a team and was so happy. He did not start in high school until his senior year. He was on JV as a junior. His one friend currently, who's been his friend since high school, started above him, and he's about 5'10". So we make like jokes all the time. Like, how in the world did you start before him?
Sounds tall to me, but go on.
He like when looking at colleges, like, was looking like D1 AA. And then he got an offer from Maryland to be a walk-on and was like, this is incredible. Like I could go, we were in the ACC at the time. Was so happy to just like be a part of the Maryland football team. Like, didn't imagine that he would redshirt. And then
we have a correction. Sorry. Michael chimes in that he was on varsity his junior year. He just didn't see the field.
Yeah, okay, fine. Fair enough.
Let's give the guy the credit he deserves, please.
So he didn't start until his senior year of high school. And then he gets to Maryland, redshirts year, puts on 70, 80 pounds, whatever it was, and then goes on to start 48 straight games for Maryland. Like, I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. Like, it is pretty like a movie script. And then he got hurt his senior year, missed one game, and continued to play because the coaches were like, you should keep playing. Well,
and this is like a classic. This is a thing that we would get on coaches for. Like they were not looking out for his best interests. Like, get the surgery, dude. Like,
yeah. So he got the surgery.
You're committed to the team.
Yeah, he could have gotten it. The game was like Halloween, so he could have gotten it in October. But he came back. He played with like one of those harness things on his shoulder. Big team guy. But, so like that impacted a lot of the draft stuff because he couldn't do anything really like during like pro days or anything like that. Like he was still rehabbing. And then when he got to the Rams, he definitely wasn't, he was healthy, but he hadn't been playing football in, a while. So it just didn't really start the way he had envisioned it would. And I loved his quote in there, like this, that playoff game was kind of like the final chapter of like those 4 years. And now it's like kind of like the new book and, this new, these next steps in his career. And I'm so excited to see what's next for him.
The other thing I wanted you to touch on is the dynamic in the house between your mom and Michael.
They're like
and how she's always on his side. Yeah.
Always on his side. You think she's my mother, that she would take my side. And if we're getting in an argument, she's like, Marissa, well, and I'm like, wait, you're supposed to take my side. I work a lot at night, obviously. I do a lot of these podcasts and stuff. So they will sit at the counter and play backgammon, and they're trash talkers to each other. Michael wouldn't for the longest time would not say anything towards her because, he's trying to be like the nice, respectful, future son-in-law. But my mom is like a huge trash talker. She'll just go right at him. Like, oh, I backgammoned you. Like, I'm ready to. And now he started to really pick it up. He'll be like, ooh, what kind of move was that?
Well, maybe in the chat, Michael can answer if Marissa's mom is the best trash talker he's ever faced, or if, Cam Hayward is better.
Yeah, Michael, I don't know the answer to that. We'll see. But it's really nice to see their relationship, and his parents are amazing too, and his dad is will fly, drive to be wherever Michael is. You wrote about it in the story.
He was fun to talk to.
There was supposed to be there were supposed to be fans at the game, the playoff game versus the Steelers. They were supposed to allow a certain amount of fans, but then they declared, because of the state emergency, that only friends and family could go to the game. So, but before that, he had bought like dozens of tickets for anyone in their family that wanted to go, because, you know, he's just been such a great support to Michael, his mom as well. So he's lucky to have them, and I'm so lucky to have my parents as well. We couldn't do it without them, for sure.
Do we want to out Michael on who his favorite team was growing up and who his favorite player was?
So the child will get a real field day about
we
this.
don't want to lose it. We don't want to mess up the love fest.
Michael has a family dog named Brady. I'll just leave it at that.
Brady Quinn of the Browns. He grew up a big Browns fan. He loved Brady Quinn, and all worked out very well.
Yes, exactly.
So, you know, you mentioned it. The club of Jewish football players, pretty exclusive. Like, Michael has a chance to really rise up the ranks here.
I mean, Mitchell Schwartz and Jeff Schwartz got that pretty. Yeah.
We got a good offensive line forming.
Yes, yes, exactly. So, Jeff Schwartz has done some stuff for The Athletic, obviously, at a podcast here, and I know how Michael read their book in college and thinks so highly of them because you know similar backgrounds, and they're both great players. And so me being the outgoing fiance, and I of course messaged Jeff, had posted a film review of the game and said something really nice about the left guard did. So of course I messaged him and I was like, hey, by the way, and he was like, no way, tell him to reach out. So joining that Jewish offensive lineman group. But they're both excellent players, and definitely have been a inspiration to Michael.
In the chat, they want to know who's going to play you in the movie. I'm curious who would play Michael. And also, as I read the story and as I listened to this, the only shame in this is that's such a smart, impressive, empathetic, tough as nails person is subjected to producing the Ospreys and being
at least that's fun.
2 a.m. doing Fleet World Order or Flu World Order, whatever it is. So yeah,
I love my job. Bo and I had so much fun getting ready for the Ospreys.
We did have a lot of fun.
We literally were imagine if we worked on a TV show together. This would be awesome. Yeah. But I really do so I left Major League Baseball because I wanted it. It was post my surgery and everything, and they were so good to me when I had to be out. But I was working really late hours, and Michael and I weren't able to be together a lot because he was in different cities, and I got to the point where I was my happiness is more important than my career. So actually 2 of the people I used to produce a podcast with at Major League Baseball, Anthony Castrovins and Richard Justice, they actually had sent me the job posting for The Athletic, and we're you should apply to this. You're great at our podcast. This is a job that you can work remotely, and then you could, get the best of both worlds. And tomorrow is actually my 2 years at The Athletic. So
that's great.
Tomorrow is, I just got shouted out in that little announcement thing we get on Slack. But I'm so grateful for everyone I work with here. Everyone has been so awesome to me, and I've learned so much about all different things in sports and producing, and I'm really lucky to have a job and coworkers like you guys. You make my job very fun.
I'm laughing because Tracer Bullet says Gene Hackman will play Marissa. He's good in everything.
Who will play you?
Me?
Who plays Michael? Yeah, who plays
somebody? Well, when they casted the BWF movie, I forget who they had playing.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
I think her name was Sir.
Oh yeah, Saoirse Ronan. This is it. We've got it. Yeah.
And who plays Michael?
I don't know who plays Michael. We need to get a big actor. I don't really know.
It's Michael. Too bad. I feel like Gandolfini could have done it.
But, so we watched this. Oh, he would love that. But Michael does talk Michael loves Bo's Italian accent because Michael loves to talk in an Italian accent. My family's all Italian.
I mean, we do have to take a bit of a step back here and just imagine the fact that there was an NFL player who was starting a playoff game who watched the DiNucci song.
I literally sent it to him. Like, I was like, this is the best thing ever. He's watched all these. Like anything we did at night.
I'm so sorry, Michael.
From the other room. He's probably, he knows more about what's going on with the Eagles than a lot of other teams. Eagles and Jets. He did watch all of my Jets podcasts too. I have to give him that. Connor would be very mad if I didn't say that.
This is the only thing we don't like, Marissa. You don't have to give them enough. You don't have to give them. Connor retweeted the story today, so it's okay.
We actually have a Michael Dunn in the Jets chat, and they discovered each other that they were both Michael Dunns. So now they call each other 1A and 1B. So it's like a little.
Who's who?
So the guy that was in there was originally 1A, but then he found out Michael played football, so he was like, no, you deserve the 1A title. So
that's funny.
Michael, my fiance, is 1A, and the other guy is 1B now.
That's good.
So, yeah.
My dream is for someone from like Wolf's Den fame to sign with the Browns, and like Michael to have a conversation in the Browns locker room about you with Corey Graham, right?
Well, there's some former Eagles on the Browns right now. Good old Malik Jackson just came over to the Browns.
Malik Jackson, that's right. I don't know that Malik and I we didn't have enough time together in a non-COVID environment. Who is like the most unexpected or interesting person you heard from today?
I was telling Bo before we started, I got an email from my old professor at Maryland, who was the first ombudsman ever for ESPN. His name is George Solomon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, Zach. I was actually going to say, maybe you should have given Zach a Toucan name.
He got that very quick.
Of course he's going to get that.
Yes. So I got an email from George, and George has been so instrumental in my career and such a great guy. So that was really nice to see. And then I've been getting a lot of texts from people that I went to school with. A lot of people, like I said, I was never shy about telling about all of my health issues that I went through, if in person, but I never posted anything about it. So some people I went to college with didn't know. And when they read it, they were like, I can't believe, you didn't say anything, but I just never really knew how. But so it was really nice, catching up with all of the, the guy that I'll give him a shout out, Scott Kornberg. He was the news director at WMEC Sports at Maryland. And he gave me my first gig covering Maryland women's soccer as a freshman. So he sent me a nice text today. So that was really cool. All the different people that I've, worked with throughout my career and just, catching up with them. It's really nice.
Well deserved.
Diana Rossini's boyfriend, if you're listening, or husband rather, if you're listening, get Diana to give the shout out to her former intern. Let's go.
She's great. And Michael actually saw her too when he was playing in the XFL because she did a lot of the sideline stuff. So I think he introduced himself. So
you got anything else, Zach?
I mean, I could ask questions all day, but I'm very happy
you're a good reporter.
I'm very happy for both of you guys. I think it was a worthy story to be told, and I think it was told exceedingly well. I'm fascinated though by I don't think Bo's life is going to be that much different right now. like Bo has. I'm fascinated by how your life is different now. Because I imagine it's like a weight off your shoulders to a certain extent, but. I mean, and I say this respectfully because that Steelers game was outstanding, but Michael has still been an anonymous offensive lineman, and a 4,000 word story on The Athletic that enhances the profile a bit, right? So this is, he's got a bigger spotlight on him now too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's getting paid.
He's working.
He's gonna get Nick Chubb residuals, right?
He's working really hard to make that team. So I mean, he's put in a lot of work. But a lot of guys put in a lot of work. So we'll see what happens. But
you gave the perspective, which I think is really well said. That it's amazing what Michael was able to do and like what he was able to, the stick-to-itiveness throughout all of that. But it's also sort of humbling to think about how fortunate he was to be able to do that. Whereas there were, presumably other people out there who if they had the means to be able to hang on as long, maybe they would get their shot, or people who just never got their shot. So I thought your perspective was really nice about that.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, we are so fortunate to, have the support from both of our families, and he was able to keep following his dream. But I think about that all the time, like how much talent there is out there that, can't wait that year to hopefully get picked back up again. Like they have to move on, or they have to, find a job that, they could just make a steady paycheck. Because, it's a week to week thing in the NFL. Practice squad, active roster, really too, like you got to show up every week and, hope for the best kind of thing. So I do think that, that's something that's also, easily forgotten, that who knows how much talent there is out there if guys just get a chance to prove it.
So how much does it piss you off then when we're like breaking down a practice and we're like, or a game, and we're like, yeah, Jamon Brown can't block in this situation, and you're there thinking, do you guys
have
realize,
a Jamon Brown story that you maybe can't tell?
Like, do you guys realize how hard it is to block a defensive tackle in the NFL? Like, when you have Cameron Hayward on the other side,
I understand the media aspect. Obviously, I probably understand that even more. Like that's, sure, more of what I've been experienced. Yeah. But I also understand the personal side of things, sure, obviously because of him. But, I think there's a fine balance. But yeah.
Can we make you the offensive line expert of the show?
I mean, I would say I'm no expert, but I could try my best.
Okay, we could use that. We could use that help.
I was telling Bo, I was like, I know way too much about offensive linemen.
Like how many you can name around the league.
I was like thinking about that. Like I should quiz myself. Like, can I name one person on every offensive line? I don't want to do that live, like Zach. I was saying it, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, rewind. Zach definitely probably could.
Yeah. And then last night or 2 days ago, whenever it was, when we're talking about Brandon Brooks's diet, are you like, yeah, that's my life every day, like the Taco Bell lines?
So Michael actually eats super healthy, but so much food. Like he doesn't eat fast food or anything like that, but so much food. Like it's so hard to cook for him because I'm basically cooking for like 6 people during the off season.
And your mom's getting on you about it, right?
Yeah. So my mom makes fun of me for not being able to cook yet. Like being the Italian mother that she is, she always just is like, I'll do it for you, I'll make you guys chicken. I'll grill 3 pounds of chicken so he has it in the fridge kind of thing. So she definitely kept him fed pretty much all off season. But thankfully, the facility feeds them most of the time. They get to take home dinner. So that's always pretty good. So I just have to fend for myself usually, which is a lot easier. But
someone does suggest in the chat that we now have to do a feature story on Shield's life, and I think because I've done Marissa, Zach, it'll be your turn to do a Shield feature. That way, we'll all have everything covered.
I would love that. Anytime you can write about a national figure, it gets a lot of steam.
So back to yesterday's episode when you teased that I know a lot about Cleveland, Shield will actually be here next week. So we already made dinner plans on Tuesday. So I'm gonna have to work.
He's gonna be the first. We've never met in person. He's gonna be the first one to meet you in person.
Yeah.
Maybe he can do the pod from your
dinner.
apartment.
Yeah.
Pod from dinner. Yeah.
It will be interesting to see his legs. We've only seen each other.
A lot of people say that about Shield. The first thing they have to say is, those are some interesting legs.
That's a drop, Marissa. That's a drop.
I think that is a drop. I think we need to make that a drop.
Yes.
Shield should show up. Shield should show up with I don't know, fully shaved legs or something weird, like full leg sleeve tattoos. I don't know.
I do want to reinforce to our listeners, I've asked Marissa a lot of questions about being the significant other of a of a professional football player, and I've made light of the fact that like our podcast can be a joke sometimes, but like Marissa is an outstanding journalist. Like on her own merits, she merits a story as well. So I don't want to belittle that as like, and no disrespect to Michael, but I thought the line in the story was when Marissa was upholding her professional integrity. And Michael's like, "You're afraid of being outed by a camp body." Yeah. So
I just never wanted anything. I never wanted anything to be awkward, you know. So there was actually the game versus the Eagles last year, the Browns-Eagles game. The weather was
game, as we all think of it.
Yes, the weather was, I mean, just brutal.
So
like I've never been so cold, wet, just disgusting in my life. And I'm in the parking lot, like trying to feel my fingers to drive home. And we're texting in our chat, me and Zach and Jason, like, ready to record in 20 minutes? I'm like, yeah, sure. Flooring it home. I'm like, still wet. I'm like, wow, I can't imagine anybody sitting at that game. That must have been brutal. And they're like, I know, the weather was horrible. Who would have gone to that?
And you're biting your lip. Yeah.
So they're excellent reporters as well. And, you know, I just didn't want to make anything awkward. It wasn't about, you know, me not telling them or anything. So.
I know, but like, what a funny text that, you know, that was for them to get. Like,
yeah. So if you go to Jason Lloyd's Twitter, he actually posted a screenshot of like that conversation, which is pretty funny. I actually had gone back and sent that to you, Bo, as well.
Right.
Yeah, I would have, at that point, I was like, they should hear it from me versus seeing on Twitter. That would be pretty bad. So they're great.
All right. Zach, anything else? I mean, you said you've got a question for days, but well, you know,
make sure
the rest of our lives with Marissa, we can circle back.
We have a honeymoon to plan, so if anyone, you know, I know it's a big thing to talk about our honeymoon on this show.
Did what's her name ever reach back out to you?
So I actually forgot to email her, and I have the thing up right now. So that is on my to-do list.
Well, because I got like a weird email that it didn't go through or something, so
Yeah, I definitely need some help with that because I got a lot on my plate right now.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. You know who went on a really good honeymoon that I think they'd recommend? Zach, where'd you go?
I went to Asia.
I actually never heard this story. So
yeah, I went to Asia. I went to Hong Kong. We had a
nice time. We got a specific.
We took a ferry to Macau. I gambled a bit in Macau, so yeah, it was a nice time.
Wow.
Would you put money on Josh Sweat leading the league in sacks?
No. I split 8 and doubled 11 and yeah, you know how that goes. But anyways,
I mean, this is actually a very significant podcast moment that we just got a specific there. So
the chat is really liking it.
I was going to say if for like the last 45 minutes of the podcast, if you've enjoyed it but you haven't read the article, you might be a bit confused, but make sure you check it out. And if you don't subscribe, go to Bo's Twitter. You can subscribe there. You can get 50% off if you're a new subscriber.
Somebody in the chat said #Shields legs. We're going off the rails.
Shields gonna he has to do something. He has to like walk in with a weird walk or something. He has to really weird pants. He's got to do something to really follow through if he makes it all the way to the end of this episode. Okay. Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode. Thank you to Marissa. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
No, thank you to you and Michael for being so willing to share your story.
And thanks to the listeners for all. I mean, I've read every comment. Like, they're all so nice, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you.
I'm sorry.
And I will bring back the mug because
a lot of mug talk in the comments.
Yeah, we've been doing these so late. I'm not having coffee this late, but I will bring it back. I'll make tea or something.
I do have to say, Jared in the chat said Zach finally shared his honeymoon story. Jalen can finally sleep soundly knowing that the lamp is finally full, which I think is very good. Okay, so Marissa, for all the listeners, as always, we love you and thank you. And Zach, we love you too.
This is Marissa's day.